You're on.
Call the meeting to order. I think everybody is here except Becky Ryan and Tom McCormick. Is that correct?
Correct.
Everybody's been furnished with the minutes from the last meeting. Are there any additions, corrections, or discussion? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve them as presented. So moved. All in favor? Aye. Okay. We also have the financial report. And that's Robin to highlight anything that's unusual.
Okay, well, we started out the month with $921,398 in cash in hand, $1,766,777 invested funds. We earned some interest and we got our biannual management fees from the two organizations that we manage. Our expenses were just, I want to say normal, but they're probably less than normal expenses for the month. And we ended up with $948,717 in cash on hand and $1,766,777 in invested funds.
Do we usually carry that much cash? Or that figure about it?
The cash on hand, yeah, we're usually about there.
And the cash is considerably higher because of the T-bills we moved into the cash account. Because they weren't getting any interest as the T-bills come
Oh,
due.
T-bill.
We're moving them into cash for right now, so you will see that number increase even next month.
And you'll see our investment funds go down slightly as a result as well.
Any further questions or discussion? If not, I'll entertain a motion to accept the financial report as presented.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I'll turn item 3A over to Jim for presentation.
Okay, I think everyone is familiar with an Alley-Cat wind project that's been proposed for both Allegheny, Wyoming, and Cattaraugus County. The project is going to encompass about 117 wind turbines, and in Allegheny County, they're going to be located in the town of Centerville, the town of Rushford, and in Kent County, they're going to be at Freedom in the town of Farmersville. And then there's one portion of the project that's going to be located in the town of Arcade. For our understanding of the project, they are proposing 14 turbines for Arcade. And I guess we have a little discrepancy on the number between the 14 turbines and what was actually in the Article 10 proceedings, which only said 13. So we reached out to the company for some clarification on that. And they indicated they want the approval, or at least the action of the IDA to take place with approving up to 14 turbines, with the understanding or the thinking that they may have to back off from that 14 number by 1 or 2 turbines based on wetlands or setbacks as they begin a little more further siting. We have the community host agreement for the town of Arcade, and we're fortunate to have Doug here. Maybe, Doug, do you have any more insight on the number of turbines to share with us?
Well, in the discussions with the reps from the company, they actually thought that there might be more because they wanted to have so many turbines in the entire project to make it worthwhile to make an investment. That was before they were all. The Article 10 was approved by the state. So, despite what the local governments do, they have it whether they like it or not. And at the time, she said we might be up at as far as 20, and maybe down to 15. But the last number I heard was 13. But as you said, it could be more. So I don't know how that works with the state commission, you know. usually they want a set number,
Right.
so, all right, Kevin?
Yes.
So, but that's, Marguerite Wells is my contact, so.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's what we've been working with as well.
Yeah,
How big are the, two megawatt?
Yeah. they're big, yeah, we actually, and maybe I've talked about this before, but the town of Arcade, you hear about all this discussion about, other towns, Freedom, Farmersville, about people are opposed to them. We had to amend our zoning law, our green energy law, in order to accommodate the larger turbines. Not a word, not a soul, and it was advertised, purpose of the public hearing. And quite frankly, I've had like 2 people ask me, and I'm serious, 2 people ask me about them. And so, and the question was, what do I get for having a turbine in my backyard? And I said, well, the biggest benefit is your town tax bill should be like cut in half. It's okay. And our deal, I'm not ashamed to say it, is $500,000 a year for 20 years. It's $10 million. Our town budget is a little over 1 million, maybe 1.1 million per year. So that's over half. So.
That's why there are no objections. Must have heard nothing.
Well, I'm just stunned because, the town of Freedom is just across the road from the town of Arcade. This was such a hot thing and it's still going on, For us, it's been. So that's what I know.
Okay, I appreciate that. So back when the original wind turbines were done, the megawatt dollar was $8,000 per megawatt, in which 80% went to the community host agreement, 20% to the pilot. In the case of these projects, the megawatt dollar figure is 11,410, of which Doug has mentioned 80% goes to the community host agreement, which is 9,160. And then 2,290 is going to be in the pilot. So holding true to the IDA's policy on 80-20 split, the numbers work for that on this project. So they're proposing with these up to 14 wind turbines, a capital investment of almost $73 million in the town of Arcade alone. There is going to be one full-time equivalent job picked up along the way with this project. And again, these projects are taking place because of the governor's initiative to have 70% of the state's electricity be from renewables by the year 2030, which is not very far away. So because the investment and the incentives that are going to be considered by the IDA are going to be greater than $100,000. For today's meeting, we're just looking for authorization to hold a public hearing in the municipality where the project will be located. So anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer that. But this project is going to be a total of 340 megawatts throughout the 2 counties. 3 counties, I should say.
I have just one question for Kevin. Kevin, given my position in the town, is it right for me to vote on this, or should I accuse myself? Anything to do with this project? As far as
I don't think you're deriving a personal benefit from the project.
getting nothing from
No, I think you can vote on it.
it. I'll accept the 50% reduction in the tax. But everybody gets that, so. Hey, you can't hate the guy for trying.
If you prefer to abstain, you can do that too.
If we have the numbers right.
You have the numbers here, you can abstain from the vote.
No, I have no problem. I just don't want to legally get jammed up.
Any further discussion? If not, I'll invite a motion to accept the scheduling of a public hearing with our usual language the motion. And when do you think that will probably be? Toward the end of?
Ideally, we try to do it in between board meetings, so we only need to provide 10 days notice, right, on the public hearing. And then we can have the public hearing and actually could come back conceivably at the next meeting. But that is assuming we get all these other little things figured out about number of turbines and all those sorts of things. But these aren't going to be built till next year.
Right. Well, I think they're supposed to be operational by spring of 21.
Yeah, that's about it.
Yeah. So, I mean, they're gonna start construction fairly soon.
Okay, do I have such a motion? Second? All in favor? Aye. Okay, motion carried. Joe, last month, we tabled the infectious disease response plan. Since that time, I've had a chance to carefully consider every comma and period in the document. And, I don't have any questions, but I thought maybe you would.
No, I don't have any comment or question as of now.
I'm just kidding a little bit.
I don't,
Does anybody else have any questions or discussion of the thing? And I think Jim indicated that the work on this was done by Mark Foos.
That's right.
And he furnished the document to us at no cost.
And the reason for the response plan is obviously it's a strong recommendation from New York State. And once we have it, assuming it gets approved today, we have to do an affirmation about it on the New York State website to show that we have an authorized and approved plan in place.
Any further discussion? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the plan as presented. Do I have a second? Second. All in favor?
aye.
I did, the next item, I did not attend that meeting. I think Jim and Kevin were there on behalf of the IDA, and I'll seek their guidance on whether we should go into executive session on this.
There's some additional financial information to share with the board, Jim.
Other than the original application, no.
Okay.
I was just going to provide a quick summary of the meeting.
Okay, I'll leave it up to you. I just don't know what went on.
Agreement is a way of kind of stabilizing their property tax, which they feel is going to put them in jeopardy for being able to continue on. They're looking at all their expenses, and the property piece of it is something that they think is a significant number. Primarily because since we did the project with them in 2012, their assessment went up from, quote me on this, Robin, 2.77
To
million
7.3.
to $7.3 million. So subsequently, their taxes have jumped up with their new assessment. They still have the pilot in place, and this year they're paying 60% of the pilot. And so they only have a few more years to go on the existing pilot. Since the pilot was done in 2012, this board adopted a new policy called the Tourism Destination Policy in 2015. Beaver's Hollow thinking was that if there was a way to somehow tag that pilot policy onto what they have, that would be of some help to them. So that was one option that was being considered. So this board at our last meeting didn't want to go out on a limb with any sort of adjustments to the pilot without involving the taxing jurisdictions in this discussion. So initially, myself and Kevin and Bill Daly met with all the taxing jurisdictions without Beaver Hollow, talked about the various scenarios about playing with a pilot a little. It's a real significant impact on what they are doing. So on Monday, we gathered the taxing jurisdictions along with myself and Kevin again, and about some things that might be palatable to the town. Again, the school seems to be willing to go along with whatever might make it sure we can keep Beaver Hollow in this county and keep them generating revenue and sales tax and bed tax. But the town, again, is in a really tough spot. So I think there was some discussions about maybe playing with the pilot, not necessarily the pilot, but maybe with some sort of a host agreement with the town that could make up some differences and try to maybe reduce all the taxing jurisdictions back a little bit. So I think, and again, Kevin, you can jump in here. I think what we're going to see is another proposal come in from Beaver Hollow, which will propose something along those lines.
I don't have much to add to that. That's exactly what we talked about at the meeting. And, you know, there's going to be some dialogue, I think, between the Beaver Hollow and in the town. The town has counsel involved as well. Joel Kurtzhoff out of East Aurora is assisting the town. And, you know, I think that's really the question. It's at the end of the day, it's a question for both sides of affordability, right? So this board has some ability to craft pilots that can help the situation. But I think the direction here was to let them work those things out and then seek, you know, the IDA acting more as a facilitator than anything else. So I thought the meeting on Monday was productive.
And I think the taxing jurisdictions were extremely grateful for inviting them into the room. So that was a good idea, I think, on behalf of this board to do that. Other than that, you know, instead of just running shot over whatever and doing what this board wanted to do. So I think that was helpful. So I don't need any actions for today. I just want to give the board an update on where we are with that. And we expect something to come down probably before the next board meeting.
Did the town give you any indication of slightly reducing, or did Beaver Hollow come up with a comment or figure what it'd like it to be?
Yeah, I think, you know, at the 60% level that they're currently at with the pilot, I think the indication from the town was, and again, she's not speaking on behalf of the whole town board, but the thinking of the supervisor was that if it was kind of kept at that level right now, they could be okay with something.
Is anybody kicking in additional?
That was at one of the initial meetings that we had, but.
Did the tenor of the discussion change a little bit with the town council taking a role in this? Because I sensed he was quite reluctant. He just said, you know, give us a proposal to let you know. And he was trying to put the IDA into as the bargaining chief. And,
Yeah, I think that again, the meeting was, you know, I think there was good discussion. I think he's actively involved in this. That it was pretty plain to me after the meeting that he had been speaking with the supervisor and certainly charting a course going forward.
good.
That's Angela Green.
Yeah.
She's been supervisor.
Jim, what caused the increase in the assessment? Was it because of the work that they did there to
Well, that was part of it.
clear up?
They also went through a revale, which was another part of it.
Yeah.
And,
That's a big jump.
yeah,
I know, yeah.
Was that one of those situations where our assessors just accepted a figure from the state?
I believe it was. And Beaver Hollow did contest and go to grievance about getting the assessment reduced, but they were declined.
But there have been a number of properties where the assessment, at least, and I'm not even sure that the county does their assessment, where they simply say the state assessor has a special team that comes in, drops a figure on the property, then has a long list of things that they will not do as far as supporting or justifying their figure, which I think has caused it's good for lawyers, it's also a lot of litigation, but it is, I just didn't think that was the way things should be done personally.
Right.
Well, I know from past experience that the Beaver Hollow, I'm sure they are pretty, offer a significant amount of sales tax as well.
Yes, they do. It's, you know, they employ about 35 people there. I mean, there's some, we're talking about jobs and families and things too.
With regard to the bed tax, the county treasurer informed myself and a couple other people, she wasn't allowed to disclose who pays it and nothing else. So, but you didn't have to look very hard to see.
No, you wouldn't have to hire Perry Mason.
No, I think that was
Okay, Mr. Chairman, like I said, I'm not looking for any action. I just want to give an update.
Do you have other things to report? Number 5.
Yeah, I do have a couple things I wanted to talk to you about. JC Equipment, which is Coal Building Solutions, if you can buy there, the building's coming down, which is a relief. It's been such an eyesore for over 20 years. They're gonna completely demolish the whole building, build a brand new building right on top of it. And ironically, I've been talking with Jesse, the owner of the company. They are now going to be manufacturing these very large doors like you would see in airplane hangars that kind of go up with the hydraulics. They're going to be manufacturing them right here in Warsaw as well. He was out in South Dakota during this COVID thing, getting all his contacts and things put together. And so he said he was pretty excited to share that news that he's going to start that side of the company as well.
Jim, is this going to be one building or two, or?
I think it's going to be one building initially, but I knowing Jesse, he's going to have multiple buildings there.
I see the clearing whole parcel. How many acres goes with that?
It's 6.7 acres.
It'd be nice to see what it looks like when it's done.
Yeah, absolutely. It was funny that they had demolished part of the end of it, and all the stuff was still open.
Oh, yeah. Waste paper, that's good.
Dream Lake Campground, they're still kind of stalled in the planning process for their expansion project. As the board knows, they're not only coming in for help with a pilot because of what they're proposing there, but also are going to be looking for a loan through our revolving loan fund through the BAC as well. I can always keep the hotel project on here for Arcade because it's still a work in progress and it's still an active work in progress. So it hasn't gone away as a result of COVID. So we're happy about that. I'm still having discussions with that company from Perry called TTI Light Industrial. They're the company that makes these precision industrial support and maintenance systems for manufacturers. They've outgrown their facility on Main Street and they want to build a place at the racetrack up on Perry, which they also own the property on. And so I met with the general manager of the company, and now we're trying to get together with the guy that actually signs the checks to see what we can talk about in terms of helping out to encourage that project to move forward. Solar, we're working with a small company called Buffalo Solar, who is proposing to build a very small project in the town of Bennington, directly behind the fire hall. It's going to be 1.5 acres. It's going to be at only 500 kilowatts, but the deal they have is they're going to be renting or leasing the property from the fire company and putting up a community solar project there. So they're looking for help from the IDA. We talked about the size of the project and if it would net them any benefits for us to get involved. They claim they really need us to make this thing happen. And and it's supposed to be about $600,000 project. So there can be some benefits that can be realized by help from the IDA. The other solar projects that are still in the pipeline that haven't moved much since COVID came along is the Delaware River project. It's 12.6 megawatt. That's the one in Pike. We got the Silver Lake one in Cast Isle, which is a 24.9 megawatt one. We also have the Big Tree project in Sheldon that this board has already approved, and that's the Duke Energy one. No, I'm sorry, Big Tree is a brand new one. It's 175 megawatt, which is a huge one. And they're proposing that for the town of Bennington, and also will spill into the town of Sheldon. So the ones that this board has already approved that are waiting for construction on includes the Java Energy Storage Project, the Orangeville Battery Storage Project, the Duke Energy Niagara Solar Project that we approved. I asked Robin to run some numbers on total capital costs of the three major energy projects this board's already approved, and it's about over $52 million of capital investment that's happening in the solar projects or energy projects that this board has approved. And we ever get these things to construction, we anticipate IDA fees to be over $500,000. The thing is, these projects take a long time, so that revenue that we're looking at, we may not see it for a couple more years. So just wanted to give you an update on where that is.
Jim,
Yes,
this project in Bennington, where's their property to the north?
the large one or the fire hall?
What is it, north of there?
It's directly behind the fire
There's a
hall.
lot of room there. Don't think.
It's a small parcel. Like I said, it's only gonna be an acre and a half.
You know, they probably don't have an opportunity to pick up any more land.
No, Jennifer was telling me that there's a property that borders there as well, pretty tight.
Yeah.
Residents.
So they're gonna do with value.
Well, maybe they'll run an extension cord over there. Wanted to let the board know that we're continuing to work with Scott Gardner and Eric Zuch from tourism, along with Visit Rochester. We've been leading the charge for a EDA CARES grant application on behalf of the whole region, just because I guess nobody recognized the impact of COVID on our recreation and tourism businesses like we have here. And so we were relentless in pushing this forward, and we had a pre-application meeting by the phone with the EDA rep who encouraged us to send in an application. So we have the application done, and we're going to be submitting it next week. The only thing left to do is get some letters of support for that project. If we get funding for that, it's going to be a regional project, as I said, and it will be in the neighborhood of $300,000. And it will be helping businesses with kind of reinventing how they're going to do business under the new norm, whether it be diversifying, looking at new markets, digital platforming, all those sorts of things. So that, again, that's specific to the rec and tourism industry as well as hospitality. Under the Business Assistance Corporation, we approved the Boxer loan. We're getting very, very close to closing it out, possibly as soon as next week. I got an email from Evan from your office who got word back that everything looks great on the documents. So it's a matter of getting the abstract and getting things moving forward. Just some quick updates on the business center that we administer. We got that restart loan program that we put together. We put $200,000 in. We've had 5 loans approved so far, totaling about $40,000. So it's helped some. We didn't get the overwhelming response that we thought we would. But it's still out there, and we are getting ready to close on 2 loans, one tomorrow and then another one on Monday that will bring us to that 5 total. So, the other thing that we are doing that's new under the Business Center, we have developed what's called a Business Accelerator Academy. This is a program that's going to be kind of an educational component. It's going to be 4 sessions long, and it's for businesses that have started and are in business and they're up and running, but they need that technical assistance to really help grow their business to that next level. Jennifer's been leading the charge on this, and she secured a grant of $1,000 from KeyBank. And then recently just got recognition that a grant from the Wyoming Foundation of $5,000 is also coming to the business center. So we have enough money to put this business academy together, and we're gonna roll it out in the spring of 2021. We have the Fitch boys that are facilitating our fast track that are gonna be running the program. We also are establishing what's called a business mentorship program through the business center. I got a phone call one day from Rosie Shader, is it Shader or Schrader? Schrader, I think, from Community Action. Said she got a special pot of funds from the EDA CARES Act. She said a portion of it can be used for helping businesses that have been impacted by the pandemic. We had in our back pocket a program we've been thinking about doing called the Business Mentorship Program, where we would do things similar to that EDA grant that we're doing, but we would open it up to all businesses. But it's to help with that technical assistance to get them to adjust this new norm by looking at different markets in the digital platforming and you know how to analyze your financial statements to make good business decisions and all those sorts of things. All the weaknesses that we saw from a survey that we did where businesses say, we need help with this, we need help with that, and that's what this program is going to be doing. And then finally, the Business Center is going to be rolling out our fast track program to start September 1st. So that's my report.
And under the definition of monkey business, I would wish to report in good authority that the Attica Hotel opened the door at 3:00 yesterday.
No personal,
I was unable to attend, but I heard
from good source.
from our secretary.
Reliable source.
Yes, you can see it right out the window of the office. Is there anything else anyone has, any other business? All right, if none, schedule the next meeting for August 13th at 2:30, and I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Call to order meeting.
We got to shut down